Hey out there, Jeremy here, and guys, I'm very excited for the conversation we're going to have today because I find myself talking about this more and more, and it's a topic that we need to be talking about, and I think for some reason we just don't talk about it. I don't know if it's, the food industry, I don't know if it's pharma, I don't know what it is, but, we talk about, could plastics be affecting our hormones? Could the food we're eating be, affecting our hormones? We're looking at, people's body shapes and things like that, and it's like hormones are a big issue, and we're not talking about it. Our guest today is Ricky Brandon, and he is a health and wellness advocate. He and his wife, Candy, started Hormone Balance Centers because they could not find the high level of care they desire for their own family, and today we're going to talk about hormones, what you need to know about them, and some of the most important things around them. So, Ricky Brandon, thanks for hanging out with me today, man.
Hey, awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to talk about this with you.
Yeah, and you're looking pretty fresh over there, man. I got to say, I like the glasses, like the jacket, man. It's all looking good in there. So for you, I feel like, as I mentioned in that intro, I feel like hormones are one of those things that once you understand how much they affect, it's kind of scary that we ignore them. But I guess for a lot of people, it's just not something we're considering. And I guess for you and Candy, like, how did this become something that, came top of radar for you and that you wanted to do something about?
Well, it became top of radar because we felt crappy. We felt terrible. And every time we went to the doctor, every time we went anywhere, you have like this innate gut feeling, this thing inside of you that says, I know something's wrong with my body.
Yeah.
And so you go to the doctor. Doctor runs some tests, and he comes back and he says, everything's normal. But you go away going, I don't feel normal. Mm-hmm. So this happened to us. This happened to my wife. She's like, can you check my hormones? They check her hormones. Well, first of all, they don't want to check your hormones, right? They're like, no, hormone decline is just a natural part of aging. Don't worry about it. And we had to hunt and hunt and hunt. And finally, we found someone that made sense to us. We did lots of study. And finally, it was explained to us, well, yeah, your hormones are within normal range, but they're low normal. Mm-hmm. Who in the heck wants to live their life in low normal? That's like saying to you, well, you're not quite in poverty yet. Why would you go out and get a better job?
But you're almost there, right? Like, just be grateful. Be grateful you're not there.
Yeah. Who wants to live their life in low normal? I don't know about you, but I want to live in optimal.
Correct.
I want to live in awesome land. So it's about increasing the quality of your life. Can I keep going? I want to tell you.
Yeah, no, I want to kind of lay this out for people before we kind of dive into it. So go for it, man.
Yeah, there's something called the neuroendocrine theory of aging. And this, before you get to that, you basically ask the question, do we age because our hormones are lower, or do our hormones lower because we age? Mm-hmm. Right? And the neuroendocrine theory of aging basically says, well, the lowering of the hormones is what speeds up or causes faster aging.
Okay.
And I buy into that. Okay. Now, we'll talk later or whatever, if you want to, about why do the hormones get lowered. But the hormones lower, and so aging kind of speeds up. And then other doctors, the reason doctors, you mentioned at the beginning that people don't like to talk about it. Doctors don't talk about it because their view has kind of always been, well, hormone imbalance is just a natural part of the aging process. Mm-hmm. And this drives me nuts.
Well, and they end up treating what happens to the body because of the imbalance rather than saying, like, well, maybe we should solve this imbalance, right? Like, oh, okay, now you have a weight problem. Okay, let's handle weight loss. Well, unless you handle the hormones, you're never going to handle weight loss.
That's right. You're exactly right. So I asked one guy once, well, I noticed you're wearing glasses. And he says, yeah. I go, why do you wear glasses? He goes, because my eyesight's bad. I want to read. That if I can't read, my life is terrible. And I said, well, eyesight going bad is just a natural part of the aging process. Why would you interfere with the natural part of the age? Take those glasses off and throw them away. Living in low normal is okay. No, I want to live in optimal. I want to see. And so I think this is the conundrum. Doctors aren't trying to hurt you. They simply don't know. And they're afraid of it. They haven't been taught it. They haven't been taught about hormone optimization, the safe way to do it. All they know is what the drug companies tell them to. and the insurance companies and their company give them a protocol to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And so they follow it. And they follow it so they don't get in trouble. And they don't really have time to think about you. And so the struggle with this is finding a doctor or finding a practitioner who understands it, and they have time to think about you and talk with you. And I mean, yes, you can treat from the labs. You get your blood work back. You look, oh, you're low in this hormone, you're low in this hormone. But you can't only treat the labs. Doctors treat the labs. There's book after book, study after study that says your optimal hormone range is the one that makes you feel good without hurting you. And it's different for everybody.
So let me ask you this then. I guess, how would we know, right? Like, how would we know there's an issue? Like, we hear about women going through menopause, and I think that's the one we're most familiar with. And, there's some hormonal struggles and things that go with it. But I guess, how do we know that, there is a hormonal issue? And I guess, like, you're talking about finding the right type of doctor, which is really important. But I guess, like, what are we looking at? Because people hear hormones, and I think that's confusing to them, right? They're like, all right, well, I don't even know what that is. Like, So, like, how do we approach it then?
Yeah. Well, you always start with your symptoms. And the big sign is, I have symptoms no one knows how to treat. I just feel like something's off. I think most men are worse at this, but most women kind of know there's something going on with their hormones. And you're right, they don't know what to do about it, right? So symptoms are tiredness, fatigue, headache. Of course, there are those PMS symptoms or menopause symptoms of hot flash and stuff like that. Look, women don't have to go through those menopause symptoms. We can fix the hot flashes and night sweats in like 3-4 days with the right hormone balancing. Now, for men, it's different. I think men, there's this big craze right now for low T or testosterone.
That's what I was going to ask about. Like, we hear people talking about it all the time. Like, there's low T, there's low testosterone. So you have to get I know Joe Rogan's even talked about it quite a bit. Like, you have to, supplement with this or a growth hormone in order to do something about it.
Yeah. So, testosterone starts to decline at about age 30. I want to tell you a story about this guy. Was about 31 years old, right? And we don't perceive people having testosterone problems until they're 40, 50.
Yeah.
And then we also have this thing that, only bodybuilders or very vain people are using testosterone, or people with libido issues or erectile dysfunction. That's kind of our perception.
Yeah.
And so we think that the symptoms of low testosterone are, low libido and muscle mass going away.
Sure.
Those definitely are, but there's these other subtle ones that people never hits their radar. Depression, drive, don't want to get out of bed, no fighting will at work anymore. This is where I was. My testosterone was through the floor. I had a thriving business. I took on a bunch of partners, and I got to a point where I just didn't even want to show up. And I ultimately ended up just I didn't sell it to them. I just gave the business to the other partners. My wife was super scared because she's like, I trust my husband. I have faith in him, but he's acting a little crazy. He has no drive. And actually, some people say, if you get your testosterone high, you're going to get roid rage.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to be angry. I experienced the opposite. When I was so low, I had no fight in me to deal with anything. I was irritable all the time. I was meaner to my kids because I just didn't have what it took to deal with it. So I found a hormone doctor. This was before we were doing this. I found a hormone doctor, and he put me on a hormone cream. I started feeling better within about a month and a half. Man, it was night and day. My wife's like, my husband's back, right? I didn't have libido issues. It was everything else. I felt depressed. I mean, I was so scared I was going to have to go on an antidepressant. So then I go to my regular doctor for a checkup. And, they ask you, what are you taking? I'm taking testosterone. And he says, I sit down and he goes, you don't need to be on testosterone. Well, this has changed my life. I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, those hormone doctors are all quacks. They'll just give anyone testosterone who wants it. And I go, my testosterone was really low. And he goes, we'll find out. I'll test it. I'll test you while you're on the testosterone, and we'll see. And if you still need it, I'll keep giving it to you. I'll let you stay on it. I'll let you stay on it, he says, right?
Wow.
And so he tests it. I was still lower than normal. I was clinically low even on the cream.
Wow. So the supplement wasn't really helping then?
It was helping, but it didn't get me up to range. The cream wasn't doing it. So the range for testosterone, and I don't want to make this a whole thing about testosterone, but
no, right.
all hormones are the same. This same is true for progesterone. The same is true for thyroid. The range for testosterone is like 300, depending on the lab you go to 900. That's the normal range. So if you're at 301, they tell you you're in normal, but you feel like crap.
Mm-hmm.
If you're at 299, now you're clinically low. Also, if you're at 800, you're in range. If you're at 850, you're in range. If you're at 899, this is a huge range. This is like, this is crazy. So I was at like 269. I even though I was feeling better, I can't imagine what I was on before the cream. So he moves me to an injection once every 2 weeks. Amazing.
Wow.
I'm doing great. Now I start learning about this stuff. I found out that it needs to be double that. Now I'm in optimal range. I was just in survival range. Now I'm in optimal range, and I got to tell you, I'm doing more things now than I did in my 30s. So this guy I started to tell you about, he's around 31. He's in school to become a physician's assistant. He calls me up. I've known him since he was a teenager. And he says, look, I know you've started this Hormone Balance Centers. My mom told me to call you. He's out of state in school, and he's like, I feel terrible. I feel like giving up. I want to quit school.
Wow.
And he starts describing all of his things. I'm like, this sounds like low testosterone. Let me get you a lab request. Go get tested. Sure enough, he was as low as I was, and he was 31.
Wow. It's so interesting because so one of my best friends, and he's had some trouble in the last few years, so we don't talk as much, but he was a professional bodybuilder, and he actually tested for low testosterone. So he still had like decent muscle mass. He still looked pretty good. But like he had a lot of these things you're talking about, and he was in his mid-20s. So it's interesting. It affects, men of all ages, just like we talk about, the issues with, I feel like so many times the attention is just on female hormones, which are important and need to be handled, but it's the only thing we're looking at a lot of times, which like you're saying.
Yeah. So let me give you an update on it.
Yeah.
About 2 months in, he said, I'm feeling like myself again.
Wow.
3 months in, he says, I'm back. And he's thriving. He's doing very well. And he thanks us. Now, I want to bring a lot of people, they'll hear, it's like the moment you talk about hormones, everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
Right. And they start saying things like he had this fear. One of my professors told me if I start taking testosterone, then my body will stop producing testosterone. Have you ever seen that guy on the internet? He's on a bunch of videos, and he takes silly things people does, and then he recreates them in a common sense way, and he kind of points his hand and goes like duh. Right? Have you seen that guy?
Yeah, I've seen him.
Well, this is like that. He says, I'm afraid to take testosterone because my professor or my friend or my doctor tells me as soon as I start taking testosterone, my body will stop making its own testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? It's not making it now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not making enough now. What makes you think it's going to magically come back?
Right.
So the advice they're getting is live this low normal or below normal, crappy lifestyle the rest of your life because I'm afraid to give you testosterone or progesterone or estrogen or thyroid.
So let me ask you this, Ricky. there's two words that I'm kind of looking to figure out the difference between. There's the hormones we hear about doctors talking about, or a primary care physician, and then there's this idea of bioidentical hormones. What's the difference? And I guess, does one have more a benefit than other? Or like, what should we be looking at?
Yeah. So let's talk progesterone when we talk about this one.
Okay.
Bioidentical progesterone. If you took two molecules of progesterone, one's made by your body and one's called bioidentical, made by a compounding pharmacy, the chemical structure is exactly the same. You can't tell them apart. If you look at them under a microscope, the structure of everything looks exactly the same. Bioidentical is usually made with natural plants like soy or yam. That's the base of it. So now let's talk about what you get when you take birth control, or they have the one that's kind of famous for causing cancer was a prescription drug called Premarin or Primpro or Primrose, right? They had these, they basically you can't get a patent on something that's not unique.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to make it unique so they can patent it and mark up the price to whatever. It mimics progesterone, but it's not progesterone. It's a drug.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to sell tons of it because it helps women tremendously. So the drug version of that is called medroxyprogesterone acetate. So I know you don't know what the structure of progesterone looks like, but if you look at it, then they take it and they add an acetate and a methyl group, and that turns it into a drug that they can patent.
Mm-hmm.
And
because it's got to be just different enough that they can patent it.
That's right.
That's like in the workout world. A lot of the pre-workout supplements, and they actually got in trouble with the FDA with this. They used to add a methyl or a dimethyl to a lot of the stimulants in pre-workouts because like, well, we can patent it now. It's a similar thought process.
Yeah. So for a long time, I mean, since like the 40s, doctors were just giving this stuff out like candy. Everyone was on the same dose.
Mm-hmm.
Because progesterone has this amazing calming effect. They would start sleeping better. They would start losing weight. And you balance the progesterone and estrogen by raising the progesterone. And those menopause symptoms start going away. And it was working miracles. And then in about the year 2000, a big medical study came out. And guess what? That increased the causes of breast cancer and cervical cancer.
That's what I was going to ask. I had heard about, like, there was this link between, like, hormones and cancer, and I've heard from some people, well, it's not all hormones, it's more synthetic ones and things like that. So I guess tell us about that.
So that's exactly what happened. I remember watching this. My jaw hits the floor. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're finally telling the truth, right? And so now it was literally... For a while, it was the number 3 selling drug. And then I think by then it was the number 1 selling drug. Drug companies were making money hand over fist. This report comes out. Doctors started sending out letters to women saying, hey, they're trying to preemptively not get sued. And they're saying, hey, you had a choice to go on this. You knew there were risks and things like that. So now you have all these women sitting here going, well, I don't want all those symptoms back. This might cause cancer. But if surprisingly, like 70% of the women chose to continue taking it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, yeah, if I get cancer, that's going to be 15, 20 years down the road.
Yeah. You're paying for today with the future.
So they're rolling the dice because they were so miserable before this drug.
Mm.
So the bioidentical, what your body makes on its own, doesn't do these things. In fact, it has the opposite effect. For women, women don't need much testosterone at all, but they need it.
And I think that's an important point too, because I think that as this goes back to my kind of gym world experience, and women are like, oh, I don't want to lift weights because I'll get big. And it's like, well, yeah, if you were doing large amounts of testosterone, but everybody naturally has it. Like, just like men naturally have a little bit of progesterone and estrogen, right. But they don't have it in the amounts that women do.
You're exactly right. So with a woman, you give her a little bit of testosterone and the right amounts of progesterone, and magic happens.
Mm-hmm.
The chance of heart attack reduces. The chance of cancer reduces. And the reason, because your heart is a muscle.
Yeah.
That testosterone builds muscle and helps it tone. Even testosterone and progesterone, and that right mix, it increases the receptor's ability to handle and utilize calcium, which almost reverses osteoporosis better than all the osteoporosis medicines they're prescribing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're prescribing osteoporosis medicine. What you don't know is they suggest you only stay on them 2 or 3 years. Some of them are only 1 year. Then they want to cut them because they're bad for you.
So I didn't know the calcium thing. That's really interesting because calcium too, like the uptake of calcium is what helps muscles to contract and to expand and everything else. Like that's the thing, the firing nutrient that causes that to happen. So that's really interesting. I didn't know that.
If a guy is low on testosterone, and he goes and works out at the gym, he goes home and he's tired. He just wants to sit on the couch and click the remote. But when you were at the top of your game, you were sore, and it was like a good tired.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't feel exhausted. You felt, my muscles are tired. And after about 3 to 4 months of being on the right dose of testosterone, you exercise, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel that I don't just feel tired after I work out. I feel my muscles worked.
Yeah.
And I get sore again. Some people don't get, they can't work out hard enough to get sore. and their body doesn't have anyways, it's kind of awesome. This actually happened. Sorry, I feel like I'm dominating the conversation.
No, I'm intrigued. That's why I'm kind of like not really stopping you.
So this happened to my wife. We decided we're going to get healthy and we're going to the gym. I'm doing the hormone stuff. I'm studying and learning the hormone stuff. I'm taking classes with doctors. I'm way in over my head. I only know what about half the words mean. And we're going to the gym. And my wife is not losing weight. You know that story, you can't be a prophet in your own backyard?
I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. So the people who you know and love don't ever listen to you. I've been telling her for a couple of years, look, we need to get you to the right doctor to get your hormones balanced. And she's like, no. We go to the gym. We're working out of the gym. We're working our butts off for months and months and months. I'm getting good results. She's not. And we're frustrated. We talked to the gym owner. His name's Zach. He's really awesome. And he says, Candy, have you ever thought of getting your hormones checked? I was like, yes.
Validation,
listened, right? And I went to someone who I'd been working with, who was a mentor of mine, and we got her in balance. You won't believe it. It was less than 2 weeks. She stands on the scale and she started losing weight.
Wow.
And she turned her head from the scale. I won't forget it. And she looked at me almost in tears. And she said, "Oh my gosh, Ricky, if this was the only thing holding me back all these years, I'm going to be so mad." Mad and happy, right?
It's so interesting though, Ricky, because I feel like it goes back to causal, right? Like it goes back to causal. Like rather than treating symptoms, treat causes, right? Like if you look at hormones are one of the main things in muscle building and density and everything else, as you've talked about. If you look at it like, okay, if you have less muscle, your BMR is going to be lower, right? Your basal metabolic rate, or the rate that your body burns calories just by being awake and breathing. So like there's so many things that are affected by this. And I think this is what, you're seeing and what your wife was having happening here.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And she felt terrible. She couldn't get up in the morning, right? I was the one always getting up, getting the kids off to school, and she'd lay there till 9:30, 10 o'clock. And you can only do that so long and have a marriage go awesome. Like we have a great relationship. But it starts to drag on the other one. You're like, man, I'm starting to carry everything. I love her, but I wish we could help find her, some happiness and health. And when we did have a family event or something, she's pushing through just on adrenaline, and then is wiped out for 2 days after.
Yeah, because then your adrenals are shot, and then you need to handle your adrenal problem that you now have. It's causal, man, not symptoms.
It absolutely is. And hormones do so much stuff that nobody understands, right?
Mm-hmm.
They regulate and balance everything, and they have to be balanced. You can't just get one hormone, right?
Yeah.
Like if you need thyroid, they give you thyroid. If you don't have the right iron, your thyroid's not going to work. If your estrogen is out of whack, then your thyroid medicine's not going to work. You know,
Yep.
estrogen. People don't realize that birth control pills actually mess with your thyroid a little bit, and that's why people gain weight.
In the 80s, they gave my mom had some hormonal issues like in the 80s, like after I was born, it kind of like messed with her system a little bit, and they gave her birth control to treat her hormonal issues, which then gave her debilitating migraines. So it's like, Jesus, man.
It's terrible. I mean, I don't know how much time we have.
Yeah, I got time, man.
Hours. Say that again.
I got time, man.
Okay. Like I could talk for, birth control. Like this is, I've had a 22-year-old girl come into our office. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And she's with her mom. And she's like, we got to get my daughter some help. Right. She's reaching out. And the story is this. I went on birth control. She's going to get married. I'm engaged to get married. So I go to my doctor. Doctor says, "Are you going to have kids right away?" She says, "No, we're not. We're going to wait a while." And so as standard protocol, he writes her a prescription for birth control, puts her on birth control. She starts taking the birth control. This is the story of everybody, right? She starts taking the birth control, and 6 months into the marriage, she's put on 12 pounds. She's having headaches, and she's irritable as all get out. Now, not everyone does this. Some people do just fine on birth control.
Right.
But it's a synthetic hormone, which is messing with all of her levels. Yes, it stops you from getting pregnant. Yes, it stops your period. But what a great way to start a marriage. Put on 12 pounds and be grouchy.
Yeah.
This is terrible. So I explained to them, look, you haven't been on it that long. We can reverse this pretty quick. We need to get you on the right bioidentical hormones. All of these symptoms will go away. And the mom puts her hands on her head and looks down. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, the same thing happened to me."
Wow.
And because half of the people do fine on birth control and half of them don't, the other half are telling you, "What's your problem?" Right? Like your body just deals with it different.
Mm-hmm.
And like I used to work. We didn't talk about this, but I used to work in Las Vegas on Las Vegas stages.
Oh, Lost Wages, Nevada.
Lost Wages, and the valet parking is wallet parking.
Yeah.
Really. On the stage, I don't know if you knew this. We had all of our children at home with a midwife.
Oh, we did too. We had both of my daughters at home with a midwife.
Yeah, awesome, right? It didn't start out that way, but another guy on the stage and I were having babies at the same time, so we were always talking babies and our experience at the doctor. My wife had back surgery, so she was really worried about having her first child. The back doctor told her, "You'll never carry a baby full term. You'll be bedridden the last 3 months, yada, yada, yada," right? And so we're going to a doctor because her mom is paranoid. Everybody's paranoid, right? And I had heard that midwives I'm not anti-doctor by any means, but I had heard that midwives give fantastic prenatal care. So I actually went out and hired a midwife, and we were going to the doctor. The plan was to have the baby in the doctor's, right? And we'd go to the midwife. I'd ask a ton of questions. She'd spend an hour with us answering our questions. Man, all of our fears started going away.
That's so interesting because I know we met with we worked with a midwife, but it's like part of the process in New Jersey. You still have to meet with an OBGYN in case shit goes bad. So we had a meeting with the OBGYN, which was 5 minutes was all he would give us. And he sits down, he's like, "So you would like to do a home birth, huh?" "Yeah." "Do you know the risk of death in a home birth is double?" And I'm like, "Oh gosh, tell me the numbers, doc." He's like, 1 in 1,000 versus 2 in 1,000. I'm like, wow. All the medical technology you have, and that's the only difference? Way to go, man. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's exactly what happened to us. We start talking to him, and down the road, I start trusting the midwife more. She had actually delivered more babies than the doctor.
Yep.
And I start And and then I realized also she said something that changed it for me. She goes, doctors have malpractice insurance, and they have a baby die or a mom die, they just keep going. I have a baby die, I'm out of business.
Yeah, it's over.
And I realized she's not a doctor hater. She's a baby lover and a mother lover. And if anything's going to go bad, she's going to be the first one to take us to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And so we finally came to the decision. We told our doctor, look, Candy's had back surgery. We don't know anything, right? And I say, my wife's had back surgery. We think we're going to try home birth. Will you be our backup if anything goes bad? Right? And he goes, well, and he's really nice. And he says, it's McDonald's versus Burger King, flame broiled burger or fried burger. What, you have to decide what you want. We get home a couple days later, we get almost not a cease and desist letter. I don't know what you call it, but a discharge. Sorry, you can't be my patient anymore.
Wow.
If you're going to make that decision.
That's crazy.
He didn't want he was worried of liability. And he literally told us, I can't be friends with my patients because it might affect. He basically said we're taught not to be close friends or get too involved with their personal lives because that might compromise our decisions of protocol.
Wow.
We had a fantastic birth with our midwife. She gave us great care. And believe it or not, it was cheaper than going and using insurance at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It was fantastic. Okay, the reason I started telling that story.
I took you way down a rabbit hole there, man. Sorry.
The reason I started telling that story is because we had all these. At the time, I had all these Las Vegas showgirls around me that work on their body for a living, and they can't get pregnant or they stop making money, and they've been on birth control for years. Some of them 10, 12, consecutive years, 15 consecutive years. Mm-hmm. They start asking me questions about hormones, about birth control. This one's trying to get pregnant and they can't. And I end up becoming the in-house expert. And we would have at lunch, we'd have these 30, 40-minute conversations where I'd tell women how their body works, why inducing labor is bad, why the epidural is bad, and what Pitocin really does to you, and all of this. And I'm sure this makes sense to you, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change those home births for anything. And the value of the education from the midwife took away my wife's fears, took away my fears, and that knowledge of what removing those fears did for me by education is what we do at Hormone Balance Centers. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm all about and super passionate about, because I try not to call people patients. I try to call them clients, because they're buying our services and they're in charge. Mm-hmm. Our job is women know their hormones are off. Men know there's something wrong and their doctor doesn't find it. Their doctor wants to put them on an antidepressant. You say, are you depressed? Well, I don't think so. But that's the only solution, because they won't test their hormones.
Yep.
And when you start educating them on hormones, why they're not going to get cancer, which one is the right one, why the balance is there. And you can't treat just the labs. You got to treat how they feel. And so that means we have to talk to them. Like the first appointment where we're going over blood work is an hour or more, because you're going line by line. Look, this is what this means. This is how it feels. And everybody who does this, like a high percentage come out of that room or out of that telemeeting, and they call us and speak with us after, so we can get all of their supplements and prescriptions going. And they're almost in tears because they say, oh my gosh, they feel validated. Mm-hmm. Your practitioner, your doctor really understands. Like, they could almost tell me my day-to-day routine. One lady came in once, and she's wearing makeup. And this is the difference. How often does your doctor recognize that you don't normally wear makeup and now you are? Mm-hmm. And he goes, you're wearing makeup. And she looks and she goes, yes. what about it? And he goes, you're feeling better.
There you go.
And she goes, yeah, I am. You have to care.
Yes.
You can't just treat the labs, because your optimal range is different than my optimal range, than her optimal. You have to say, what are you feeling? This is why I don't like, I don't know if you've heard about all the pellets.
No, I'm not familiar.
Hormone pellets are becoming a big thing. They're advertised all over Facebook. There's several companies doing it. What they're doing is they're taking nurse practitioners who want a side gig, or they want to make extra money. They're training them on some weekend training about hormones. And they say, do a blood test, send us the blood test. We'll make a pellet, which is like the size of a grain of rice. And they inject it in your gluteus, right? In your butt.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you this slow feed of hormones. And they are bioidentical hormones, I think. But they give you this slow feed for 3 or 4 months. So you don't have to use a cream or take a pill or do an injection. You just set it and forget it. But I don't like that, because they're treating the labs. They're treating the numbers. And now you get this injection. And I've had people come into our clinic with raging hormones, acne,
Mm-hmm.
and they go, I got this pellet. Now my hormones are raging. What do I do? And I have to say, wait 3 months for it all to wear off. They don't know how your body's going to absorb it, how your body's going to use it. They make a logical guess based on the numbers to get you to optimal. Oh, you need this much. And they put this thing in, and you can't take it out.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to live with it for 3 or 4 months. That's why I don't like it. It works great for some people, but we don't like it, especially in the beginning, because if you're taking progesterone and it's not working, I can have you double it tomorrow.
Right.
Or I can have you lower it. If you're taking too much thyroid and you're going, man, I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack. My heart's beating. Guess what? Cut the pill in half. You have to help us. And that's the only way we find optimal, right? I know where the dangerous level is, and I'm going to keep you from it. But I mean, it works magic when you're working with it. That's why we call ourselves health advocates. Mm-hmm. I don't like this idea of a patient-doctor relationship, because you just have to do what the doctor tells you.
Yeah.
I hate that. It's your money. This is another reason. I mean, people get scared. They think hormones are expensive. They're not as expensive as you think, especially the bioidentical hormones. But to get treated, to get the kind of care where we're not rushing you in and out in 15 minutes, it does cost money. Mm-hmm. We don't take insurance, because I don't want the insurance company telling me what I can and can't do. Like, I send someone for blood work.
That's a whole other racket. There's a book, I don't know if you've read it. It's by Wendell Potter. He used to work for, I forget what insurance company, but it's called Deadly Spin. And it's about like what percentage of everything they do goes to marketing and what percentage actually goes to, like, treating patients and stuff like that. It's a little bit wild. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, no, I'm going to, what is it called again?
It's called Deadly Spin by Wendell Potter. It's about the insurance industry. And once you read that, you're kind of like, damn, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. As a quick story, as preventative, I went and got a colonoscopy, right? I'm 50 years old.
Ooh, I'm supposed to have one of those soon because I have a family history. Doesn't sound fun.
Well, I don't know. They give you stuff. It was like having a nap, right? The worst is, I knew they roll you in right before they put you to sleep. This lady goes, hey, I know you. I'm like, that's the last thing I want. I don't want anyone who
I know
knows
you,
me.
And now you've seen my butt. Anyway.
Yeah. Like, I feel violated already. You haven't even started yet.
Oh my God! Well, Ricky, I've really, really enjoyed this conversation, man.
Yeah.
I feel like we've really kind of demystified a lot of what people need to know, and for people out there, I'm sure they want to find out more, and they're really interested in connecting with you and learning a lot more about what you're doing. So, for people listening, how do they find out more about you, and how do they find out more about Hormone Balance Centers?
So, what I want to do is, like I said, education is key. So I put together a book. I'm not looking to get any award-winning author prizes. I put some of these stories, the symptoms, what blood tests we run to empower people, and I'm giving it away. It's a PDF, and I'm also giving away the audio book, and it's at freehormonebook.com. Anyone can go there. You're going to enter your name and your email address. That's the only price of admission. And then you can download the PDF. You can get the audio book. And we're going to let you into our Facebook group where you can keep interacting with us, ask questions. I keep pushing out videos, but this book will help you get a good foundation where you can talk to your doctor. Of course, I hope that we do telemedicine and stuff and help people all over the country. Of course, I hope you come to us. But my real mission is to demystify all of this, make people feel safe again, make people feel empowered to fight for their own health and get rid of these symptoms and live an optimal life, a healthy life for the rest of their life. And then once you get your hormones balanced, like you said, then we want to help you and coach you in living a wellness lifestyle for the rest of your life.
Very cool. Well, Ricky Brandon, Hormone Balance Centers, thanks for hanging out with me today, man.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.